repotting this indoor tree isn't going to hurt it. It's not really growing vigorously, it's doing well, but also we're not going to do anything hopefully too drastic to it. And Karen's telling me that the tree's been in this pot, or in this growing pot, for about 2 years. If it's been growing vigorously, we should be able to see a lot of root. We now also, before we even start getting to the point of taking the soil away, we need to have to get the pot that it's going to prepared. So John's been very kind to get the wires in, the anchoring wires in, and he's done it this way because there's only one hole and there's not much room, so putting a bunch of wires in is going to jam up it, which may clog drainage, so this is another great reason for doing that. And when Karen was talking to me about this tree, she had offered a couple of different pots. This was one of them, and there was another darker one that was a little bit narrower, and it was like a dark brown.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was a medium chestnut.
Right. So I kind of like this pot for a couple of reasons. One, because as you can see, the root ball is quite wide here. So we need to be able to accommodate that, because you can't really cut away at that at this point. It is what it is. It's probably a big root that's kind of curled up and got back. You could, and it's not going to be the part of the composition again. Thank you, sir. It's not going to be part of the composition again, because I think the front of the tree will be somewhere in here, as opposed to somewhere in here. But we also discussed the final styling of the tree. We talked about possibly going with this as being the new future of the tree, which means somewhere along the line would be another 10 years before you see anything, before you see any major tree here. It'd be a major setback for the tree, I think. So, but we do like the movement here, and it does get straighter here, and then it gets straight through here because nothing's been done to it. But it's fairly flexible, so we can put some movement into here. And by making it into a semi-cascade, we're taking advantage of the fact that it already lays there. And it's not going to be your typical, if you go back to here, it's going to be your typical tree. You know, you're going to have a right branch, left branch, and it's just going to be your formal upright. By taking advantage of all this interesting movement and then continue it down, we'll have a different kind of tree. Yes?
I was just going to say, if we did the 10-year project, I think you'd lose a lot of the detail in the main trunk, because as that's growing, it's going to lose a lot of the movement as well.
Well, I think that's a good point, but I think that when I look at this tree, all this interesting movement, it's a literati, and then if you all of a sudden make it into a formal upright, it stops making sense. It kind of fights itself in a sense. But so now if we continue this subtle movement all the way down the tree into a cascade, I think it's going to make a lot more sense. It's going to be more in harmony. But of course, for us to do that, we'll have to get rid of these branches. The planting, when you plant the tree in, all you really should be thinking about is wiring. Most of the design you should be able to do outside of there, because then you can move the tree a little bit easier. So with ficus, they bleed. They get all this white sap, which is normal. Now, if I was just pruning, I would make sure, for style, I would make sure that if I wanted to get rid of this, I would make sure to leave like a centimeter stump. The reason why is because they tend to die back. They'll dry and dry until they come to something that's alive, and then they'll stop. And then in like 6 months you come back and you clean it up. As soon as it clears up. If you cut it too close to anything that's alive, it actually may bypass it and cause whatever's right behind it to also drop. So it's a good idea when you're pruning ficus, especially, is to leave a little bit of a stump, especially if it's a thicker tree or a thicker branch. So I'm actually going to cut this a little bit. It's a dirty job. I'm going to cut this a little bit closer. I'm not going to worry about it taking up too much today, because I think, like I said, you want this to dry on itself and then go back and do the cleaning up. And lastly, I'm going to get rid of this branch here. These are good for cuttings. As you can see, there was a wound made here, probably in one of its initial styling, or maybe the tree at one point died, and they cut it here. Now, as you can see, it's dried out, and it wants to heal over, but it can't because the cut's too high up. So what we're going to do with the knob cutter, we're going to come here and we're going to just clean it up. I'm going to wait till it stops bleeding, put some water on it, and then I'll put a little bit of cut paste on it, and that should be good, and we'll have a decent little tree with a clean wound in a matter of a couple of years. But you can see later on, if you want to see, there's just it's starting to want to curl over here, but it can't make it. So we're just going to clean it up. Just make it a fresh cut, make it a little bit flatter, and we'll make it a little bit more concave, so that the tree has some bark, or is going to be able to roll over it in the next couple of years as it heals over. So what I'm doing here, as you can see, is I'm making a fresh wound, and I'm going to cut deeper into it, and I'm going to try to make it a bit smoother so that it doesn't, it goes more with the flow of the tree, just so that it hides the fact that it's been cut. So I asked Karen not to water the tree for a day or two. The reason for that is because it's going to be easier to repot. If you know you're going to be repotting, try not to water the tree for a day or so, just so that when you take it out of its growing pot or its original pot, it's going to be easier to get the soil away from the root ball. Because when it's wet, it just sticks forever. You won't be able to actually see how the tree's doing. So in this case here, these are great. If you don't have one, pick one up, a little rake, and you're just teasing the edges of it, getting the soil loose. As you can see, the ficus like to throw out fat roots. They're always looking for water. So this is more of a water root than anything else, and obviously it helps stabilize the tree. But the really good roots are the fine ones. Those are the ones that are making the tree healthy and contributing to the health of the tree. Roots like this. We're talking massive, fat roots. They will eventually, they do nothing for you. All they do is they keep pushing the growth back, the fine roots deeper and deeper, and you'll end up having to go deeper and deeper. So in all honesty, if this were my tree and I was not particularly worried about the health of the tree, or if I had no particular love for it, I would probably take a saw to it and chop off at least, maybe not all of it, but I would make a flat cut, because it will heal over. Yes.
Can you just see the bottom?
Sure. Sorry, I didn't show it.
That's okay.
Right here.
Okay.
So it's useless. You can see there's some roots off it, but it's useless. All the good stuff are at the tips. And that's because this is wrapping around and bringing the stuff in. And that's something that, as the tree ages, you definitely have to watch. I mean, there's one here that I'm going to cut off right here. See this tubular right here? That has to come off. It's not going to hurt the tree, and it's going to be easier for the tree to survive. See? There's nothing on that. That's really not much. It's just one big tubular. Now, I've seen people actually use this as a cutting and start trees from here. They look kind of weird, though. They look like those money trees. But there's nothing wrong with cutting back. In fact, somebody's cut one here, and the root back here at one point. Now you have some new growth coming in, which is what you want to do. You cut that? Okay, so. And like I said, I would have no apprehensions.
That's why the other stuff isn't cut, is because it did.
I would have no apprehensions of cutting this off in. The main feeder root is this one wrapping around here, and this one. That's just a big. Well, I'm not going to cut the whole thing off, but I'm definitely going to shave it off a little bit. Maybe take about two-thirds of the way. Only because, like I said, in time, it's not going to do you. It's not going to do you any good. There's nothing on that. That's a good shirt. And it won't hurt the tree. Actually, if I was putting it back into a flat surface, I would probably even make it a little bit flatter. But it's not going to hurt the tree. Now, eventually, when we put this tree back into this pot, it's...
Would the area that you just cut, would it rot?
Will it rot?
Constantly in...
You know what? It will callus. If I was really if I was really worried, if this was a deciduous tree or a coniferous tree, I would never do this, obviously. But then I would probably put the pruner's paint on it, either the spray stuff on bigger areas. If you don't only waste like a whole bunch of cut paste. But trees heal over, roots heal over. That's just part of what they do. It is a big cut, I agree, but it's not going to hurt this tree. This tree will be fine. We're going to end up probably putting the tree in this direction, and because the way the roots come in, I'd have to cut it in a different way, I think, but I think since it's going to be a semi-cascade, we're going to do it that way. And the front is towards you, so you won't see this root. So it'll be like that. And we're going to ball it up with the soil so that it's going to look more natural. Right now it looks kind of odd, I agree. And then we're going to put some wire on it to do the final little touches on it. So what I did here is I just used some of the old soil that just for drainage. The tree's not going to feed off of that anyways. Which the tree's going to feed off is what's in here. And you have, say, it's 50%.
I did 50% of the screen loam, and
Haydite, is it haydite?
the other 50% is a mix of turfus, haydite, and sandite.
So it's quite, there's nothing wrong with being a little bit more organic for tropicals, but you do have to probably cut back while the tree's indoors on the water. Because the organic will hold the water, right? So there's nothing wrong with you, because I know that they'll probably enjoy it.
I think what I did.
So when you anchor in a tree, I'm sure you've heard people. Now I'm left-handed, which drives a lot of people crazy, but so that means I twist the opposite of everybody else does. But when you're anchoring in a tree, once you put the wires in place, the technique is you pull up and you twist. You pull up and you twist, and you want to put as much tension as you can without obviously breaking the wire. And the reason why you pull up is obviously it helps push the tree back down, but if you don't pull up, the wire starts wrapping around each other. It's like a corkscrew as opposed to a 45-degree angle. So you could, probably in a year, take the wire off. It doesn't. You don't have to keep the wire on the tree. A lot of people do leave it on. I always leave my tree anchored in. It's just I'm kind of paranoid because you never know when some little beastie's going to come by and knock it down, and then next you know you're dealing with a tree that's fallen out of its pot. Obviously, we all know the technique with the chopsticks, getting all the soil down, and it's kind of easy. Just go in a little circle. But just remember, when you do severe root pruning, you have to take into consideration how much foliage you're leaving as well, right? So if you're pruning it on the top, that's fine. You can do a strong root prune. If you're not taking if you're not pruning the top, then you're really setting yourself up the tree to fail because it has all the foliage it needs to maintain, and it doesn't have the root ball to feed it, and vice versa. So I would suggest that if you're going to do it, there's nothing wrong with doing it now. But just know that keep an eye on it and keep it in a place where where it's doing well. Under fluorescent lights, it shouldn't damage it. It should be fine. So yeah, I think you can do it now. You can probably do it all the way up until April if you're going to keep it inside.
Have you got a Ficus respond to trunk chops? Like, does it vary by species or in general?
I've never done it, so I can't really say that.
Trunk chops?
What
Yeah.
they do.
They're fine. Once again, I did that to one I have, and it sprouted out all over the place. And but then again, it was a healthy tree, which helps. everything comes down to the health of the tree. The healthier the tree, the better. So it was a healthy tree. If the tree's not healthy, a trunk chop's going to kill it. You know, it's I know it's kind of like an easy way to answer, kind of a way, but the fact is that a healthy tree, if you trunk chop it, they'll do well. And I trunk chopped it probably around this time, 2 years ago, and then I put it outside when the weather was more temperate, and believe it or not, I mean, it's I now have a problem because now I have to make a decision what I'm going to do with it. And like I'm not really, I kind of neglected it because it's been inside up in the kitchen window where I usually don't go up to. I don't go in the kitchen much. Now I have a decision to make, right? Actually, the tree's kind of making decisions on its own, but it's not decisions that I'm happy with. So I'm going to have to go back and do some selective pruning now. And what happens is there's a huge straight cut. Well, I just cut it. I said, what the heck with it? It will grow somewhere. Now I have to make a V cut. Select the leader, make a V cut into the tree, and then let it do the same thing, heal over, and hopefully it will hide. But it still has very, very thick, fat roots that I'm not particularly happy with, so I'm going to have to continue cutting those down so that I can get a more natural looking root nabari, if you will. Because you'll never see, yes?
Do you anticipate a lot of scarring with all the pruning that you've done with that tree?
Yeah. I mean, scarring...
So they don't heal over very quickly?
No, they don't, but I mean, they do heal over though. It's just a matter of really when it comes down to time. And if you're doing bonsai, you know that time is what you need to worry about.
Craig, if you get a chance, come up here after it's done, and you can see where Craig has pruned, I don't know how many years ago.
Yeah.
And it's overgrown by natural bark.
And underneath, right at the well,
Yeah, I know.
there's a huge one underneath.
I know. But the point is that you'll still see the mark. Okay? You see the same thing with vines, with vines, although they've got heavy bark, so you don't see the scars that much. But with smooth-skinned trees like maples, you will see the mark, whether you like it or not. You can build that into, when it matures, it becomes a factor that you don't really identify as being damaged. That's true.
So yeah, character.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to expect that there's going to be some scarring. It's normal. I think scarring to me, if the tree doesn't have scarring, it's like it doesn't look natural. And not that bonsai is natural in any shape or matter, but I mean it just doesn't have that same. I think it lacks character. And remember, when we talk about bonsai, it's all about the art of deception of age, right?
Yeah.
It's all about and if the tree doesn't have some sort of scarring, it doesn't look old. It needs something. I'm just trying to put a little bit of movement into the tree now. So we'll finish wiring the rest of the tree, put some of the branches into place, decide whether or not the tip, we'll decide whether or not the tip should come to the front, or should go to the back. That's an internal discussion. And now we have the basis of whether or not we want to keep certain. We have a bar branch here. Most likely this will probably go off to the side. We'll probably lose this one in the back. This one may come over top. This goes down there. This one we may lose because it's coming directly underneath. But actually, we'll just do it right now. But as you can see, we have, I think, the beginnings of an interesting tree. By just changing the angle of it, adding a little bit of more movement into where it was straight, and I think that that's something we will refine later on today, because we have the main session to go to. We'll continue to pack this down, and we'll mound up the dirt so it looks more natural, so it hides some of the fact that it's going inside on an angle. But I think it's a more interesting tree than it was, half an hour ago.
It's not getting raffled off, by the way.
No, it's not being raffled off, unfortunately. But like I said, this is the front of the tree. It'll be easy to remember because it'll be the leading edge. And the decision on that was because to accommodate the roots. But I think it also adds to the depth of field, so the tree looks more like it's planted further back. You could have gone this way, but then you'd have to bend the tree around. And I think this probably has a more interesting look, anyways.
And you also look into the trunk. You don't see like a straight piece of wood.
Exactly. So we're going to have our main session in about 5 minutes. We're going to clean up. And you can come talk to me or John or anybody later on if you have any more questions.